So good evening, everyone. This is Thursday, September 11th. It's 6:01 p.m. And I'm calling the Groton Board of Education Communications Committee special meeting to order. This meeting is all remote, online. Myself, Jay Whiteloff, Adrian Johnson, Assistant Superintendent Anne Marie Mancini, Board Member Jen White, and Communications Specialist Rebecca Bias. The first order of business is just reviewing the meeting minutes. We don't have to vote on this, but does anyone have any comments or concerns about the minutes of the last meeting? Okay, if not, we can move on. Rebecca, just wondering if you wanted to give us a brief communications update to get us started.
Sorry, can you hear me now? I was muted. I did just create
Yes.
a brief presentation for tonight to following along our agenda. Just re-hitting our goals. I kind of like to start with these, and these are what we keep top of mind, I think, through everything that we do. Always looking to strengthen our communications and with huge priority on not only family engagement, but staff engagement as well. So we've talked about these things in our prior meetings. I know our last meeting as a committee was in March, but you may remember I did a lengthy presentation to the board in July, to the full board. So again, enhancing the parent user experience, doing a lot of training, building our capacity with staff, leveraging our existing platforms and resources, and looking to new opportunities to strengthen and deepen family engagement, and doing all of this always attached to our mission of teaching and learning and looking to support student success. Highlighting the achievements of our schools, our staff, our district, our programs, and with our new strategic plan as a district, making sure what we're doing from a communications perspective is aligned to those goals and objectives. So what have we been doing lately? Very busy, of course, time of year across the board for the district, but certainly very busy as well with communications and that should say connecting with families and building capacity. I apologize, it says Connecticut. But our back to school communications, onboarding our existing and new families to all of our core district platforms, being Power School, Parent Square, School Cafe for food services, introducing our new families to those, but also families who might not be feeling totally comfortable with those platforms. What's new about them? Power School has, the app has a bit of a refreshed look this school year. We're working through some changes there. Of course, just all of our back to school messaging and information, from bus runs to SPED procedural safeguards and things like that. And then certainly a lot of events happening and open houses, back to school nights, all of the schools happening across the board. I talked about building that staff capacity. We've been doing a tremendous amount of training, both in person and developing training documents for our coaches, working with our nurses, working with our new teachers and our returning staff. A great example, I think, is I sat down with the nurses from GMS and Fitch 2 days before the start of school, and you may or may not be aware that there's certain grade levels that have requirements around physicals, 7th grade and I believe 10th grade, where students have to have new physicals per the state of Connecticut. And as of the Monday of the week of back to school, we had a very high volume of students who were non-compliant with this, meaning, it's not just a problem that, we don't have their physicals in the system, but that means we can't have those students in seats on the first day of school. And then that directly impacts attendance. So it's really a snowball effect. So sat down with them And we worked on some messaging and getting those messages out with urgency, and saw phenomenal results. And, again, we're able to have, kids in those seats in their classrooms on the first day of school, whereas otherwise they might not have been able to be there. Or would be sitting in the nurse's office. We have a lot of forms and updates at the start of the school year, contact information update, Chromebook user agreements. We're doing a lot with free and reduced lunch, especially with changes with those guidelines and which schools are free and reduced, which ones are not. And Impact Aid is just around the corner. Typically, we launch that in the very beginning of October. A lot of things happening with the website. This has been a very ongoing project. There's still a lot of work that we're doing there, streamlining navigation and menus, highlighting different programs like IB and ECE at the high school, and making sure those are getting highlighted and showcased. Always looking to help and work with attendance, supporting the different tiers of intervention with communications. We're having a lot of conversations about that just this afternoon. And then something that we just did today, SBAC and NGSS, individual student reports. We just distributed those today via secure document delivery. You may remember that this is how we have been distributing our report cards with great success over the past year. And we saw the state is phasing out sending paper copies to the schools. They did still send us paper copies this year, but given our pivot and shift with success to this secure document delivery last year, we thought it was good to keep that going. Parents are starting to get used to seeing these reports and things that way. So we did push, chose to pivot and make that adjustment earlier than the state's full phase out, which a lot of school districts are doing. Not only does it help with resources and time of having to stuff envelopes, but certainly saves on paper costs when we're sending out thousands of reports, and saves on postage. So there's definitely some cost benefits there as well. But within 45 minutes of those reports going out today, we already had over 50% of parents viewing them, and a huge percentage of parents viewing them via text. So the data is out there that's how parents like to look at things. They have their phones in their hand. Text is very, very successful. So we continue to look at ways that we can be sharing information about their students' academic progress in that way. But we did also make sure that the school parents were told that if they did want a hard copy, that the schools will have those and they can get a hard copy this year from their school. I know the next item on the agenda is family and community engagement. Was there anything you wanted to, before we move on to the next item, I wanted to pause here?
Does anybody have any questions for Rebecca or Anne Marie at this point? Adrian.
Yeah, I am. I'm wondering if we're doing anything to reach out with engagement in the communities directly, especially in the areas that maybe don't have transportation to get to Fitch. I know there's been some talk in the past about maybe doing, some things at community rooms in some of those areas, and mostly towards the western side of town. And I'm wondering if we've got any plans to do that. And specifically, I think it would be nice to catch parents with much younger kids, so we can try to get that engagement started, at an early time in their education.
We did do a back to school event at Branford Manor. So we were present at that. The schools all are very heavily focused on their back to school nights and open houses. So we have not planned any events right now, because we certainly want parents, if they can get somewhere, to get to those at their children's schools. And it is a challenge to get parents to attend those things in person sometimes. but we are looking, and we do have on the next slide some of the other events that we're looking at having across the community or our schools. When you say community rooms, what types of locations are you thinking about?
Well, I mean, I'm mostly thinking about ways to get to the parents that don't show up for the open houses.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, I know they're generally well attended to, but I know less and less as you get to middle school and high school.
Yeah.
So do you know how many parents attended open houses at different schools as far as percentages, and how, how we might make it better where we need to, or have any
I
ideas on how to make that better?
Yeah, I don't have specific data on that. I myself attended the Fitch open house. And certainly the attendance was low at that. And in fact, Anne-Marie and I were discussing that and looking at some ideas. And this very much ties into this next item and slide on our agenda about Dr. Karen Mapp and some of the mindsets around these topics. But we do think we maybe need to sort of pivot how we are doing these things, because you're right, we do see a tremendous drop off, particularly at the middle and high school levels, with parents coming out to some of these things. Now, I know one of the conversations I had with a teacher at back to school night at the high school, they did indicate though that they tend to see better attendance and have started seeing better attendance at the parent teacher conferences, which they've started doing at the high school level in recent years. So I think that's interesting. And we don't have a firm handle on why parents haven't come out to some of the events, but it's something we're absolutely talking about and looking to see how we can shift that.
Yeah, I think, for this year, I don't know if it's possible just to do some teacher surveys or something maybe afterwards, so we can get some real numbers and be able to measure it maybe in the future, for future comparison.
All right, Jen.
Hi, regarding the open house at Fitch, do you think it was too early? Like the kids were probably literally in school like 5 days and maybe parents didn't realize it was happening? I was because I mean, granted my kid's not in school anymore, but I remember that place being full. And I thought like open house was a little bit later. So I wasn't sure if, and probably takes up a lot of resources and time, but maybe have like another one like in January, February after the holidays at the start of the new year. It's just an idea. Because sometimes some kids switches classes and stuff during that time frame. So just because of the low attendance and maybe frequency, and maybe we'll get more. A thought. It's something to think about.
Yeah, I think that that's an interesting idea. I think generally what they do try to do conferences again, like when the students switch classes. And I
Mhm,
think we need to make a distinction between like an open house and a conference.
mhm.
I have seen open houses take place anywhere from sometimes before school even starts,
Okay.
with the concept of open house being that idea of establishing relationships between with the families
Mhm.
and the teachers, to anywhere sometime in that early month of September. So
Okay.
uh, it could really happen anytime. But, I certainly understand that feedback of, it being earlier than people expect, depending upon historically, when you do it here in Groton.
Mhm.
I think some of it is about communication and I did see some communication go out. I don't always been, absorb, I get everybody's parent square messages. So
Oh, yeah.
it may not absorb, which one's coming in for Fitch versus this elementary school or that elementary school. But, I did see quite a bit of communications coming through about the various open houses.
Mhm.
I can't, I can't say with confidence how many messages I saw come through with, about Fitch, but, maybe related to communication or just sometimes it's related to, the age level of the kids and parents saying, well, my child is a high school student and I'm going to start to give them that independence that I don't, for whatever reason, parents say, well, maybe I'll back off a little bit. And, so it's a variety of things, but let's face it, we all know that all of our students, regardless of the age level, they do still need our support, and our teachers still need the support of our families at the high school level. So we have to continue to message that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, because I know the reason why I was just concerned was because I know last year, I think they didn't have any. And then that was when a couple of the board members were pushing for it. And so now we had it and then like for attendance. But like I said, in years past, like I thought it was heavily in, like there were people in there. So anyway, that's a little disappointing, but hey, we're trying and that's all we can do.
Definitely. We have to work
Yeah.
we have to work back up. And I know that the high school is trying. We're going to continue
Mhm.
to increase the.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I said, we've been actively discussing this. The very next morning I was in chatting with Anne Marie about it.
Mhm.
And it might be a slight format change. It might be, we don't entirely know. It could be a variety of reasons, such as the ones Anne Marie gave. It could be transportation challenges. It might not be. I do know 2 weeks prior to the, full school open house, there was a freshman only open house for parents. So
Mhm.
was it too soon? Because certainly the freshmen being new to the school would be probably your most captive audience for that event. So that
Mhm.
was very, very close together. So, there could be a multitude of reasons, but I do think we agree that, maybe some shifts too in the style of the events or things like that, that those might be some things to look at.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's fine. At least we can't be held like, oh, you didn't even bother having one for the high school. You know what? We had it and it's now on you. We can only do so much. Um, so, but did you have a presentation regarding community engagement? Because I did have some ideas regarding community engagement, but would love to definitely hear from both of you if you had a presentation or if you were going to just share some of your ideas.
Oh, we have some additional things that
Mhm.
Rebecca is going to talk about as well.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
sorry for
No, it's great dialogue. So I did share, and I think this may have come up at one of our early meetings together with this new committee. So Dr. Karen Mapp is very well known for her focus on family engagement and this dual capacity framework, which I'll show you on the next slide. With again, the focus really being on the partnership, creating the trust, respecting the parents, but even more so approaching things where we want to be providing a lot of value and assets to parents and things that they will perceive as valuable versus approaching things from the perspective of where they're lacking or where they have a deficit on certain things. We also want all of our events to always, again, going back to what I said earlier about all of our efforts really being linked to supporting student success, is we want all of our events really to be connected to learning, connecting to how families can be supporting their student outcomes, but highlighting this from a very positive, here are things that you can do, ways you can incorporate things into what you're doing with your child and showing real examples of that work. And I'll go on. Anne-Marie, is there anything you want to add here before I know you have a lot more experience with Dr. Karen Mapp?
Yeah, I was really fortunate a couple of years ago. I attended a week-long institute at Harvard. Dr. Karen Mapp is, she works there and she runs this week-long institute. And I learned a lot from attending this institute. Helped you obviously develop this slide, but the importance of really linking the family events to learning. And this is, I think, helped us in Groton to develop some ideas for this year around family engagement, but also community engagement and some of the ideas that I talked with the Superintendent Austin about for this year. But you can go ahead and I don't want to steal your thunder. I can have you go ahead and introduce some of the ideas, and I can kind of respond and add on as we move forward.
Yeah. So again, we talked about how we're applying this mindset of this dual capacity framework across different initiatives. Literacy is certainly a big focus area. And I think that ties in very well to what we were just discussing about events and ways we're approaching things there.
If I can speak to this, and I can't remember if we have some more details in the slide coming up, but I can just kind of add a little bit about this. We have some events coming up around literacy, specifically in our open house. We have in our open houses at the elementary school, we have letters going out to our families at the K-5 level that reach out to our parents and just kind of say, hey, here's how you can support our students at the elementary level at home, reading along with your child. And then when our parents come to the open house, they can visit these tables that are staffed by our literacy specialists. They can get some additional detail if they have questions. I got your letter about reading to my child at home. I had some questions about, these instructions, or even if they didn't have questions, they just kind of wanted to stop by these tables. I know last year, or we all know that we implemented our first year of, oh my gosh, how am I blanking on the literacy program? But our first year of our literacy program.
Wit and Wisdom.
Wit and Wisdom, thank you. First year of Wit and Wisdom, and they can learn a little bit more about Wit and Wisdom and some of the things that our teachers are doing in the classroom. And they can, again, get a little bit more information on Wit and Wisdom and how to support their child at home. We will also have literacy nights, very specific at the K-5 level. At our and again at some of our elementary schools where families can get more details about strategies to use at home with their child. And so we're really excited about some of the things that we're doing around literacy to support their child. Again, around our Wit and Wisdom program and the science of reading. So happy with what we're doing to enhance that work. In terms of attendance, we're going to be sending a lot of communication out this year in terms of supporting, that idea of we want you in school every day. School is better with you in it. And then also just, if your child is struggling with maybe mental health issues or just engagement in school, how can we help you as a parent or a caregiver to really encourage your child to be at school every day. Sometimes too, as a parent or a caregiver, you don't have an awareness of how many days your child has been out, or just the impact of missing what missing 1 day of school or 2 days of school per month or per quarter, what that overall impact is. So we'll be doing a lot of education around that. Rebecca, would you like me to continue?
Yeah, well, I just want to chime in too with the literacy. Sarah Beth and I were chatting yesterday about, the letters going home, and another example is with engaging the parents, before they get to the events, but is doing some videos. We're talking about different fluency examples and how you read a book, and you first read it this way, and then you keep incorporating. So, sometimes we send home letters and things that, include this education speak, or we're explaining things to parents, but being mindful of sometimes it's more helpful for folks to see a video. So we want, we talked about recording a video of some of our literacy specialists showing examples of exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about retelling or reading a passage a certain way, and how it can change and evolve. So again, approaching all of this from a very partnership standpoint, and providing things that parents will view as assets, and helpful, and not saying you're not doing this with your child, but encouraging them and being supportive and helpful.
Right. In terms of the next thing, that's here on the list, school and community events, one thing, I recently went back and I watched the presentation that I made to the community of the whole. And one of the pieces of feedback that I noticed that was given after I presented that plan was about the need or the desire for more community events. And so I started to talk to Superintendent Austin about what we can do to, really increase this. Last year, we did focus groups. We conducted focus groups with students in classrooms at the middle and high school level. We went to PTO meetings. But, I felt like we could really kind of increase those efforts this year. And so this year, and we also went to some staff meetings, but this year, she and I are going to make sure that once a month we rotate, and we're going to go to make sure that we're going to staff meetings. We're going to hit every building. As a part of this, we'll have give an update of what's going on in the building. I mean, in the district, and then at the end, they'll have an opportunity to ask us questions about any topic that they want to. Could be about the update that we provide. Could be about maybe they have questions regarding professional learning or other things. So we'll welcome that. That's something I did in my former district, and it really generated some really great conversations. So I'll look forward to those. I'm actually going to introduce that tomorrow when we have the actually not tomorrow, Tuesday, when we have the principals in for their September meeting. Another thing that Superintendent Austin and I talked about was the idea of community forums. That came out loud and clear in that community of the whole meeting last June. And so I asked her about this. I said, tell me more about these community forums that was brought up. It was something that we did something similar in my former place of work, where the superintendent and I would have once a quarter, we would go to a place, like a common place like the town hall, or we would designate, some other place and say, we would call them actually superintendent, I think we called them superintendent forums. And we would have, like light refreshments. We would, very similar to what we did at staff meetings, we would have a topic, maybe we would give an update or a specific topic that we were focusing on. Maybe it would be, something that was relevant at the time. Maybe we were talking about cell phones or AI, whatever it was that was kind of relevant to what was happening. And then the community members that were present had open opportunity to ask us about whatever they wanted to talk about. And, depending upon the people who were present, could be that open forum could go for an hour. Sometimes it was only 15 minutes long, but it was a great opportunity for us to meet, families in the district. Sometimes they were just members of the community that wanted to participate, but we always felt like we met a lot of people during that time, and we had a lot of good conversations. And then the last thing, I'm going to really kind of turn this over to Rebecca, because this is something she initiated last year. And so I don't want to steal her thunder, but I know that this was a great opportunity that she kind of initiated, and it was really successful. Rebecca, you want to talk about the informational webinars?
Yeah, so that was something we had tried out last spring at the high school around it was focused on IB, but we had great turnout. So to your point earlier and questions about, folks can't always get to things in person for a variety of reasons. They might be at work, but they might be on their lunch break, or they don't have transportation. And there still is great interest in attending these informational type of things digitally, like we're doing tonight. So we did have a very successful, we did 2 sessions. We did a lunch and learn, and we did an evening session. We had approximately 100 parents sign up for those webinars. And keep in mind that one parent might have signed up, but also had their student as well as co-parent on the webinar with them. So those were really well attended. So we want to look at opportunities like that as well. And again, like I said, we did two different sessions, one at lunchtime, one at evening time, because, you know, we certainly have a community where people may be working different shifts. So it's important to offer up those other times. I know we did not do a large kindergarten event last year, but in late January 2024, we had a kindergarten night that was heavily focused on a lot of the state changes that were happening with the kindergarten age and talking about the opportunities for a transition kindergarten and kindergarten. That event, we had, 120, 130 parents out. That was at Thames River Magnet School was where we hosted it. So we absolutely have the opportunity to have these events with great turnouts, either digitally or in person. I think it's a matter of finding the right topics, the right locations, and the things that are truly going to be a draw for parents that they feel, again, are going to provide some value to them, are something they want to learn about and hear about, are important to them, are important for where their child is in their path. We do also partner with a lot of other community organizations like Children's First Groton. Last year, they had a number of events. Those were primarily always held over at Thames River Magnet School, I believe, on a variety of different topics, not necessarily related to education, but Groton Public Schools being a strong partner with Children's First Groton. A lot of our early childhood staff were always at those events as well. I don't know if they're planning to do those events throughout this school year again, but I hope that they will, and we'll certainly look to be a part of them again. So should be a lot, with the start of the school year coming up. And certainly I think we hear that there's more interest in seeing us out there in the community more. So that's something we're looking to find those right opportunities and ways to do that.
Adrian, I see that you have your hand up.
I recognize Adrian.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, talking about the community forums and webinars. One thing that might be worth thinking about with that is sometimes we have regulation changes, at different age levels or different school levels. So I'm wondering if this might also be used like ahead of a time when we know that we're going to have to make some changes or make some regulation. And I'm specifically thinking of like AI, but this could also be for phones or social media, just to get stakeholder input kind of ahead of time. Because I know the board is going to be talking about AI from a policy side, but we have some policies where regulations just change. So kind of in both of those type of things to, like I said, for stakeholder input.
Yeah, so one of the things that the high school did this year, they made changes to their school-based cell phone policy, and before school started, they had some sessions. I believe like it was maybe one in person and then also one online. I think they did a hybrid model, but I know they had more than one session that I believe a lot of people participated in, and they felt like they got a lot of important input from people that in the high school community. So I agree with you, Adrienne, that is a great way to collect input or feedback from people in the community, so to speak. So I think that we should leverage these.
And if I can just tag on to that before we move on, I agree. And I think what's really important about that is I know that after they did have those focus groups, is that they did take some of that feedback and they made adjustments to what they had initially proposed as what they were planning to do. And I think that's really valuable and important. And I think that speaks volumes to the people who came out, but also the people who maybe didn't get to make it to that one. It shows that their input is being heard and it's being incorporated into the decision-making process. And I think that will only help in the future. More people come out because again, they'll feel like their voice was heard and there was some value to it.
Yeah, I think, speaking about that one in particular, we ended up in a really good place because I've heard from multiple people that the cell phone policy at Fitch is appreciated by both students and staff. So I think we ended up with a really good balanced approach on that. So just something for thought for future topics that might come up. And then the other thing, I know we kind of went by this a little bit, but attendance. And I don't know if this is going to be family engagement or not, but have we talked about like rewards for attendance, or does that happen already? Versus just telling people to come to school, but maybe some kind of age appropriate reward system for attendance. Maybe in upper grades, it would be a point on the test or something like that, but that type of thing, or lower grades, maybe it's an actual physical reward.
We aren't associating like points, academic points, tests or things like that. But like, for example, at Charles Barnum right now, the new principal has implemented a 30-day challenge for the beginning of school, in which I believe there's some kind of award for. Rebecca, do you want to jump in and help me here? She has something going on with the 30-day attendance challenge.
Yeah, it's super cute because the Charles Barnum's logo is the bee, and so she's doing this whole bee in the hive, BEE in the hive, playing off the bee. But yeah, I'm looking up right now. I cannot remember what the reward is, but I think it's like there's individual rewards and a class reward, and they're looking to have, I believe, over 95 or 96% attendance every day, and she's doing a great job promoting that on Parent Square. They also recently launched a Charles Barnum Facebook page. So if you are on Facebook, you can look for that. It's Charles Barnum Discovery Magnet School. There were some comments in the Parent Square post about some parents saying that their students were really excited about this challenge and feeling really excited about coming to school. So it seems like that's definitely working. I'm not sure yet. I haven't heard of the other schools yet adopting something similar. They very well may be, and I just have not heard it yet. But I know I'll be attending a lot of the school's attendance meetings. I had gone to a few last spring to talk to them about some different aspects of communications and engagement around attendance. So that's continuing. But I think I'm hoping that the Barnum idea will continue to be successful, and that can maybe be a little bit of a model for us.
Yeah, and we have our first district attendance meeting that next week, and so same thing. I'll be promoting that model, and I have a feeling there will be a lot of sharing of some of their strategies and ideas.
Right, so I'll recognize Jen.
Hi, thanks for the information on the webinar. Is it possible? I mean, I feel like we record everything. Like you do like webinars that are like pre-recorded and then people can just log in and like check their different topics. So I know you mentioned for the IB you did 2 sessions. I wasn't sure if one of them was recorded so that parents who maybe have been busy both times that day can go back and do something, because I feel like it's more of an on-demand thing and then they can just sort of go at their own pace. But that seemed like a good way to reach out. But when I went to the CABE training last November, I heard, I think she was the superintendent or the assistant superintendent in New London talk about their community engagement. And Anne Marie, I think you worked with either one or both of them, where they started off small. And then as other parents started talking about, it's just a meeting at a central place, and then it got bigger and bigger. And then like community organizations started joining, and then parents started coming, and it became more of a, it's almost like a social event and an engaging event. So maybe it's held at the school, not quite um school directed of like, hey, here's some policy changes, but more of like just getting them engaged with faculty, administration, whomever. And then I wasn't sure, Anne Marie, if you had talked to maybe your former colleagues. I think they were your former colleagues.
Yes, both of them are my former colleagues. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about because I didn't attend that session, but I'm happy to reach out to both Cynthia and Jen and get more information on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it sounded very successful because they mentioned it in one of the things they were hosting. And so I thought maybe if we could leverage off of some of those ideas. Like I said, it's more of just like getting the parents in there and then creating that community so that it's almost like, yep, I'm a falcon or whatever, like the mascot is in whatever school. And then I feel like that helps because then now like they feel like you know who they are as parents, and it's not as easy to like either skip class or you know they're more engaged, so they're more likely to send their kids off to school. It's yeah, it's more of a social way of getting to parents. And it just really caught my eye, and I always wanted to like reach out to them more and just attend maybe one of their events. And maybe if you can find out like when they have one, so that maybe if like a couple board members would like to attend, I know I'd be willing to want to see how it's working and stuff, and if it's something that we can copy.
Sure.
Because
That'd be
yeah,
very, very easy to do. They're a good
thank
friend
you.
of mine.
I can speak to a little bit of that as well, and I'm sure there's some more insight we can gather. But a team of us did go over to New London. I think it was last spring. So they have a whole welcome center. I believe it's still open. It's over in Shaw's Cove. So they have a whole New London. It's funded through a grant. I think probably like a 5-year grant. And they have a whole, yeah, it's a welcome center. It's a school district welcome center. Their registration is out of that office, but they also have several other staff who are there for a variety of purposes. But they have a large open space there, a large community room at that welcome center, and that's where they're hosting some of their events. They tend to provide food at a lot of the events. That certainly can be a huge draw. I know there's some grants and funding that can allow for that and others that don't. I know some of their events were very like play-based events like water and other hands-on activity things geared towards the students. And I think some were other informational sessions, but the majority of the non-school specific, because certainly a lot of our schools have their own events throughout the year, are held at that welcome center in that large community space that they have there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, it was
Like,
really interesting going over and getting a tour of that space. And I mean, we went with our grants coordinator, our registration team, because we wanted to really get a sense of, and I know our grants coordinator has, I think, kept her eyes and ears open for grants that might allow us to do something similar, or at least pieces of it in the future.
mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like I said, like they presented on it and it was so interesting to me. And it's like, yeah, I want to learn more about it just because if you, and from their presentation, if you think about New London, maybe demographics of the parents can't always like non-traditional 9 to 5 jobs. And here they are coming to these events, right? And so if we're trying here in Groton, let's say we're targeting like some area within our community and we're thinking like, oh, maybe the parents are working second or third shift, that maybe we can leverage some of their ideas. So it's just something that I want to bring up. I don't know if they're going to present again this November. If they are, I'm probably going to attend their session again so I can better pay attention. But thank you.
Yeah, and so I just want to mention, so it's 6:45. I believe that if I understood correctly, Adrian has to leave at 7. I have to leave at 7. And so I just want to make it clear for anybody that watches this in the future that all of these PowerPoint presentations, as it was for the last meeting, are attached to the minutes, which can be found on the website under the committee minutes link at grotonschools.org. So if anybody's interested in looking through this in more detail. I think the next item, Jen, was yours. You wanted to ask a question about the website.
Yes. So I know, Rebecca, like a lot of has been updated in the website. Are there other capabilities that we're still planning? Because although we've made tremendous progress, sometimes I go to other district sites and I feel like they're a little bit more agile. So I wasn't sure what you had planned for our GPS website.
Yes, absolutely. So I won't read through this, and this is nearly identical to what I had last time on the website because it's all very much still ongoing. Yes, we are completely essentially revising all of our navigations, aligning. We had recently made some significant changes to the menus and things on the district site and streamlining that. And now we're trying to carry that through to all of the schools using similar language. I was just working on Fitch yesterday and revising a lot of their menu items. Still very much working on some new videos, just some videos and photo content, just much cleaner, simpler ways of finding things. I think this is very much going to be ongoing, and yes, still a huge work in progress.
Mm-hmm. Is
Now,
this something?
Jen,
Is
when you're
oh, go on, Jay.
talking about the site isn't as agile, obviously this is also going to depend on our service provider. I don't know who's hosting this site versus other districts, but Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to be limited by the capabilities of the vendor we're currently using to some extent, right?
Yeah, we're with Final Site currently, and I believe we have a contract with them for a couple of more years. But in my opinion, I think there's just some layout things that things are not quite as easy to find as we'd like them to be. And I think with some tweaks and changes, we can help that along. I think our goals are for parents where it has become very much for a lot of our day-to-day communications needs. And but we really, I think, want our websites to showcase news items and really showcase the culture of our district and what's happening at our schools and with our academic programs and all of our different offerings like career pathways and our magnet themes. So not necessarily the website's changing as frequently because we have a really great system in place for like day-to-day urgent communication needs. But wanting that again to really showcase our district and our schools and our culture and all of our academic offerings. But want things to be simpler and easier to find on it. And I think we can work within what we have currently to do that.
Yeah, Jay, that's what when I mean agile, it's sort of like within 2 or 3 clicks, like I can find what I'm looking for or things like that. And have more of a like 2025 feel. Sometimes when I go in, I feel like, okay, maybe like a decade old feel, just it's there. It's hard to describe, but like when I go into other sites, like I said, it's functional, it works, and we're using a different venue method to communicate now to parents, but if I'm moving in to Groton and I want to learn about the school district, obviously you're going to go there and you want it first impressions, right? Like, wow, look at they have an IB program, or oh, look, magnet schools. What is a magnet school? I don't really know what that is. And then, they can sort of like it just highlights and quick and fast, things like that. But um, I don't know, and maybe I know Dr. Kennedy has interns who sometimes work on, our computers, but I don't know, if maybe this upcoming year we get interns who are like going into that profession of like marketing and websites, and they could do like a website design for us. I'm not really sure if that's the right way to try to update it a little bit. So it's just a thought on my side. Like I said, it's functional, it works. It's just that I have to do like multiple clicks sometimes before I can find what I'm looking for. And yeah, so that's
I
it.
think we can all agree, I think we can all agree that it's light years ahead of what it was there when we first came on. It's
Oh,
been a
yeah,
tremendous
definitely.
improvement, which is not to say we can't have continuous improvement, but
Yes.
everyone who's associated with this has done a fantastic job to drag us into the next century, because the prior site, definitely had existed for a long time. Um, and this was really a breath of fresh air. But you always have to keep improving.
Yes. Yeah,
So
no, like
um,
like I said, it's
yeah,
better than what
yeah.
we had, but there's still, yeah. Thank
Now
you.
the next item, sure, thank you, Jen. The next item is the communications plan review. And the reasons that this is on here, I just wonder if there's any appetite for the board members to undergo another review. There was a communications plan first about maybe 6 or 8 years ago. It was reviewed and overhauled, I believe, 2 years ago. And so just wondering if we're at the point where we want to sort of re-review it and see if there's anything. And Rebecca and Anne Marie may have suggestions as well of things they'd like to incorporate. So, and I see that Rebecca, as always, is ready with a presentation.
Some more just sorry to disappoint, some imagery too. But yeah, so we did because I knew time was tight. We did, you're correct, 2 years ago, have the committee's ad hoc committee at that time really took on revising the communications plan and established it as a 5-year plan. I highlighted the strategies specifically in the plan. Like I said, it was intended to be a 5-year plan, so we're really only a couple of years into it. And you know, as we work year to year, like I mentioned in the goals earlier, the first slide, we certainly adjust our goals year to year and what we're working on. And, we have the new strategic plan for the district currently. So certainly adjusting, like our tactics and our actions and our goals around what's happening currently and where do we want to focus our efforts and resources, and based on the current needs and align to the big picture across the district. So I wasn't sure entirely what you had in mind for this agenda item, but I did want to highlight the plan and highlight, the where we are in terms of the life of the plan and the development of the plan.
Yeah, I had been comparing it against, some other representative plans of other districts, and just wondered if anyone, you know, um, wanted to sort of revisit it at all. Again, it's a fantastic plan. It was a major overhaul over the previously existing one, but just in the idea of continuous improvement. And so I just thought I'd plant the seed. If members want to review it, I can send out copies of it again to review. And if anybody has an appetite for, revising or expanding it, that's something we can work on. Jen?
Rebecca and Marie, what's your opinion of the plan? Does it fit with what administration is thinking? Because there's, in my mind, no need to revise the plan if it's within the scope of what you're envisioning. But if there's things that you feel like are grossly misplaced and should be addressed, then yeah, definitely we could do that. But if it's still like within the intent, I'm okay not reviewing it or making major updates at least.
I think the plan, I don't think there's anything grossly missing. I think it's a framework. I think it does allow for us to be fluid, and adjust based on, like I said, adjust our goals year to year, based on what we feel are the needs and the priorities, and aligning with what else is going on in the district and the world, from a communications perspective. This is really the board's communication committee's plan that that the committee at that time developed, and intended to have that 5-year longevity to it. So I do still feel that's there, but I don't think that prohibits us from again, having goals and implementing tactics and strategies that we need to at the time. I think it's really a framework, and it's fluid enough for us to adjust as needed without having to necessarily rewrite a whole plan. But it
Okay.
is
Yeah, no, I wasn't
the committee's plan.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't suggesting any wholesale changes. I had just noticed, in reviewing other plans, there might be ways we could bump this up a little bit, but we definitely don't want to micromanage. Our goal as a board is to provide broad policy, and then the implementation is obviously up to administration. So I'm not looking to micromanage by tweaking the plan in that direction at all. But just thought I'd bring it up since it's been a couple of years. So other than that, I just want to thank you, Rebecca and Anne Marie. Excellent presentation, a lot of good ideas. And I look forward to reviewing the PowerPoints. And does anyone have any other comments before we adjourn?
Jay, I would just say, if there's something that did stand out to you in another plan that you may have seen, certainly
Yes.
I'd love to see it. So please,
Okay.
please, I'm always looking around, and at various districts across the state, across the country, have different ideas, and we can always learn from those and incorporate. Ideas are good.
All right.
Yeah,
All
the
right. Well,
only
thank you
thing,
very much.
yeah, can I just
Oh,
add
Adrian,
one thing
go ahead.
really quickly? One thing I know
Yeah.
we had talked about in the spring, but it was board access to Parent Square. Kind of the school-wide email blasts. And I know that we have some Parent Square, like a limited amount of stuff comes to the board, but has there been any more discussion among the administration about that?
So in other words, individual board members opting in to receive the school-wide messages from the
Correct.
schools themselves, Adrian? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
Yep.
something that could be done with our accounts, Rebecca, technically? Can you
Yes, I
make us
believe
sort of
so.
a part? And yeah, is there the ability to on a granular level to just make us members of all of them and then receive like the school-wide communications?
There's a few options for that. I, would want to caution you about wanting to get everything because it's a lot.
Yeah, and
Anne Marie and I get
I think
everything.
members would have to opt in. We wouldn't
Yeah.
just turn everybody on.
So I think if you're talking like, are you thinking more like you want every weekly update or just large school announcements? Are you more interested in getting, making sure you know about events so that you can attend those? So I'm just trying to gauge so I can figure out the best option for you. And
Yeah.
I do recall,
I
and
would
I do
like that.
recall talking about this in the spring. So I apologize that we needed
Yeah,
to
my
circle back to it.
my own idea would be, that board members can opt in or to, and then they could filter as they wanted. If they didn't want to get everything, you can set up, I believe you can set up filters in Parent Square to reduce it, and maybe you could work with them on that. But my idea was that board members would get um, the school-wide messaging, and obviously not like classroom, down to that detail, but anything that goes out to the school. So, and specifically, so board members could know school events, like some evening events that are kind of public that board members might want to, maybe some board members want to go to the Christmas, band and chorus concerts and things like that. And so that kind of thing, but also just so we kind of know what's going on the ground. So we get a feel, because a lot of our board members don't have children in the schools anymore. So they can get kind of a feel of what's going on day to day in the schools without that kind of, detailed view that you might get out of the classroom.
Jay, do you have any thoughts on how you would want to put this out to the board members in terms of opting in and seeing who's interested in opting into this and at what level?
Well, I mean, I suppose we might want to bring Bev into it, but I would just say an email with a an invitation for those that want to opt in. All board members are currently on Parent Square at the district level, right? For large
Yes.
announcements.
Yes.
And so maybe just allow us to know what are the sort of granular levels that are available, if that makes sense, because I'm personally not familiar with the internal architecture of that.
Right. Yeah, so there's a few ways, we can add you as a group at the, so we have, staff, parents, and at Fitch students, and then we have guests, and a lot of, folks who are not necessarily a staff at a particular building are in the system as a guest. So that's one option. But then the caveat is that the sender does have to remember when they send a message that they add the guests to it. But that can be helpful because in most cases it's the principal sending those school-wide messages, so they can help make sure they're adding you to the things that would be of interest. And that's why I'm sort of asking what types of things would be of interest most. Because I don't believe we can add you in as a staff per se, which then you would get everything at the school. No, I mean, not class specific messaging, but you would get anything that all staff get that you wouldn't, and that you would be overwhelming, I think. And you can't filter that.
Yeah, I don't need to get the lunch menus every day or anything like that, but
yeah,
the large events is what I'd be interested in. And I assume a lot of board members would be interested in.
Yeah, so I think our probably best solution is to create the board group at each school and then ask the principals to be looping you in on some of the larger updates and about some, showcasing some things that students are doing or key events so that you guys are in the know on those things and invited. I think
Yeah,
that would
and
be
we
a good
want them to
place
know
to
that we
start.
are interested. Yeah. Yeah, and thank you, Adrian, for really championing
Yeah.
this idea.
One thing, I do have some concerns about it being, like opt-in for board members. Just because, sometimes I'll get emails or calls from parents, because a school-wide email may have gone out and I would hate to be left off things. And sometimes, as the board, we're, especially if you're not in school, you can feel like you're the last to know on certain things. So that's why I would be more interested if we could just be at kind of the parent level. So, but parent for the school-wide stuff and not the, obviously the classroom level.
Unfortunately, we can't add you in and on the same sort of level the parents get added in because they get added in as they're added in through their attachment to a student.
All right, well, maybe it's something you and I can talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe I can come in sometime and I can sit down with you. If that sounds all right with you, Jay, and then we can kind of give the board some options.
Yeah, I do think the group thing would work, and then the board members should still have the option of customizing their notification preferences like any user can. So I can prepare some things around that and I think we can figure it out. We can figure it out together. I can share some information. We can figure it out.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much. And since we have reached the end of the agenda, unless there's any objection, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.